I haven't done much walking in my life. There have always been planes, trains, cars, and buses to take me from one place to another. My feet have not had much contact with the dust of the earth. There have always been wheels to make it easy for me. In my world, there are not many people who walk. It is hard even to find anyone on the side of the road to ask for directions. In my world, people go from one place to another locked in their moving cubicles, listening to a favorite cassette, and only occasionally meeting other people in parking lots, supermarkets, or fast food outlets. But Jesus walked, and he still does. Jesus walked from village to village, and as he walks, he meets the poor, the beggars, the blind, the sick, the mourners, and those who have lost hope. He remains very close to the earth. He feels the heat of the day and the cool of the night. He knows about the grass that withers and fades, the rocky soil, the thorny bushes, the barren trees, the flowers in the fields, and the rich harvest. He knows because he walks so much, and he feels in his own body the harshness and the vitality of the seasons. Jesus is deeply connected to the earth on which he walks. He observes the forces of nature, he learns from them, teaches about them, and reveals that the God of creation is the same God who sent him to announce good news to the poor, sight to the blind, and freedom to the prisoners. Our sexuality reveals to us our enormous yearning for communion, the desires of our body to be touched, embraced, and safely held, belong to the deepest longings of the heart and are very concrete signs of our search for oneness. It is precisely around this yearning for communion that we experience so much anguish. Our society is so fragmented, our family lives so sundered by physical and emotional distance, our friendships so sporadic, our intimacy so in between things and often so utilitarian that there are few places where we can feel truly safe. I notice in myself how often my body is tense, how I usually keep my guard up, and how seldom I have a complete feeling of being at home. If I then turn to the Toronto suburbs where I live and see the pretentious mega houses, the ugly shopping malls strewn about to make consumption more efficient, and the alluring billboards promising comfort and relaxation in various seductive ways, all of that while forests are demolished, streams dried up, deer and rabbits and birds driven out of my environment. The fragmentation and commercialization of our milieu makes it nearly impossible to find a place where our whole being, body, mind, and heart can feel safe and protected. Whether we walk on the streets of New York or Toronto, it is hard not to be pulled out of our center and experience in our own bellies the anguish and agony of our world. Dear Lord, you are the Word of God through whom all creation came into being. Rivers and trees, mountains and valleys, birds and horses, wheat and corn, sun and stars, rain and thunder, wind and storm, and people, male and female, young and old, black and white, brown and red, farmers, teachers, monks, and businessmen. You, O Lord, can be found in all your creation. I thank you for the beauty of all that is. Those who want to help others to celebrate, first of all, must be obedient, that is, to listen to the voices of nature and able to translate their message for others. Perhaps we have a lot to learn from the Native Americans here. It seems that we have become so concerned with mastering nature that we have become deaf to the voices of the rivers, the trees, the birds, and the flowers that are constantly telling us about our own condition of life, our beauty, and our mortality. Native Americans feel that they are part of nature, a brother and sister of all creatures. They make their artwork in obedience to nature, listening to nature. In their masks, human and animal faces merge. In their pottery, they use vegetables such as the gourd for models. It is nature that teaches them the forms that they can make with their own hands. It is not so difficult to understand why, through all the ages, people searching for the meaning of life tried to live as close to nature as possible. Not only St. Benedict, St. Francis, and St. Bruno in the old days, but also Thomas Merton, who lived in the woods of Kentucky, and the Benedictine monks who built their monastery in an isolated canyon in New Mexico. And nature indeed speaks. The birds to St. Francis, the trees to the Native Americans, the river to Siddhartha. And the closer we come to nature, the closer we touch the core of life when we celebrate. Nature makes us aware of the preciousness of life. Nature tells us that life is precious not only because it is, but also because it does not have to be. But it is. If we are sensitive to the voice of nature, we might be able to hear sounds from a world where people and nature both find their shape with each other. We will never fully understand the meaning of the sacramental signs of bread and wine when they do not make us realize that the whole of nature is a sacrament, pointing to a reality far beyond itself. Nature should not be conquered, but revered. Nature is a veil over the Lord's face. Bread is more than bread. We must see this and understand that all of creation is transparent to God. When a tree is nothing but a potential chair, it ceases to tell us much about growth. When a flower is nothing more than a model for a plastic decoration, it has little to say about the simple beauty of life. When we relate to nature primarily as a property to be used, it becomes opaque, an opaqueness that in our society manifests itself as pollution. All of nature conceals great secrets which cannot be revealed to us if we do not listen carefully and patiently. It is sad that in our days we no longer believe in the ministry of nature to us. We so easily limit ministry to work for people, by people. But we could do an immense service to our world if we would let nature heal, counsel, and teach us again. When God took on flesh in Jesus Christ, the uncreated and the created, the eternal and the temporal, the divine and the human became united. This unity meant that all that is mortal now points to the immortal. All that is finite now points to the infinite. In and through Jesus, all creation has become like a splendid veil, through which the face of God is revealed to us. This is called the sacramental quality of the created order. All that is sacred, because all that is speaks of God's redeeming love. Seas and winds, mountains and trees, sun, moon, and stars, and all the animals and people have become sacred windows, offering us glimpses of God. When we think of oceans and mountains, forests and deserts, trees, plants and animals, the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the galaxies as God's creation, waiting eagerly to be brought into the same glorious freedom as the children of God, we can only stand in awe of God's majesty and God's all-embracing plan of salvation. It is not just we human beings who wait for salvation in the midst of our suffering. All of creation groans and moans with us, longing to reach its full freedom. In this way, we are indeed brothers and sisters, not only of all other men and women in the world, but also of all that surrounds us. Yes, we have to love the fields of wheat the snow-capped mountains, the roaring seas, the wild and tame animals, the huge redwoods and the little daisies. Everything in creation belongs, with us, to the large family of God.